The morning sun peeked through the curtains, spilling a soft golden glow across the room. Clara stared at the clock on the wall, her fingers resting lightly on her daughter's small hand. Today was Mia's first day at middle school, and yet, Clara felt a knot tighten in her chest, a mixture of pride and something else she couldn't quite name. She had imagined this day countless times over the past 6 years, often with a quiet ache in her heart, picturing it as something she would face alone. But there was a strange sense of anticipation in the air today, like the universe was holding its breath. Mia's backpack, almost comically large on her small frame, bounced as she skipped beside Clara. Her bright eyes sparkled with excitement, oblivious to the weight of the world her mother carried silently behind her smile. "Mom, look at the balloons," she exclaimed, pointing toward the school gates where colorful banners danced in the gentle breeze. Clara smiled, kneeling to straighten the strap of Mia's backpack, her own hands trembling slightly. "You're going to have a wonderful day," Clara whispered, brushing a stray curl behind Mia's ear. "Be kind, be brave, and don't forget to have fun." Mia nodded solemnly, as though she understood more than her years should allow, then threw her arms around Clara in a quick, tight hug. "I love you, Mommy," she said, her voice small but firm. "I love you more," Clara whispered, holding her just a little longer than necessary. Drinking in the warmth that had been her lifeline these past 6 years, she released Mia and stood, smoothing her jeans and taking a deep breath. The schoolyard was bustling with parents and children, a sea of chatter, laughter, and hurried goodbyes. Clara adjusted her grip on Mia's hand, feeling the familiar surge of protectiveness that had never left her since she had embarked on this journey alone. Then she saw him, across the crowd, just past the line of parents snapping photos and waving goodbye. A man was standing, watching. He was tall, his presence striking, yet somehow unobtrusive among the chaos. Clara froze, her heart hammering in her chest. The man's eyes, the same piercing blue she remembered, locked on hers, and for a moment, the years melted away. It was him, the man who had disappeared without warning, without explanation, leaving her to navigate the trials of pregnancy, labor, and motherhood on her own. The man who had once promised forever, and then vanished, like smoke in the wind. And now, here he was, standing in the sunlight, looking at her as though he had just remembered a part of his life he had long forgotten. Mia followed her mother's gaze and tilted her head. "Mom, who is that?" she asked, curious but unafraid. Clara's throat tightened. "No one, sweetheart," she said softly, forcing her voice to remain calm. But inside, a storm raged. The past 6 years of hardship, the sleepless nights, the endless questions, and the quiet victories, all of it came crashing back in a wave of emotion she hadn't expected to feel today. The man's gaze shifted slowly, finally landing on the small girl clutching her mother's hand. Recognition flashed in his eyes, followed by a flicker of something else: regret, disbelief, and perhaps hope. Mia's innocent expression mirrored his own in ways that made Clara's chest ache with both pride and pain. For years, Clara had built a life with Mia at the center. She had worked 2 jobs, learned to navigate parenthood without guidance, and grown stronger in ways she had never imagined. She had celebrated milestones alone, comforted Mia through nightmares, and whispered words of encouragement that sometimes felt hollow in the quiet hours of the night. Yet here he was, disrupting the carefully constructed balance of their world, challenging the narrative Clara had written for herself and her daughter. Clara's mind raced. Could she forgive him? Could she trust him? Could she even let herself feel anything at all when the memory of abandonment still burned so sharply? She clenched Mia's hand a little tighter and took a step forward, masking her inner turmoil with a practiced smile. But as she walked past him, the air seemed to thicken, charged with the weight of unspoken words and unanswered questions. He followed her with his eyes, not intrusive, but deliberate, as though he had been searching for this moment for years. Clara felt an unsteady mix of anger and longing, fear and curiosity, all wrapped in a fragile hope she had dared not voice. The first day of school had been meant to be simple, a celebration of new beginnings for Mia. Instead, it had become the starting line for a story neither of them could have predicted, one of reconciliation, of courage, and of the enduring power of love. And in that moment, Clara realized that the next chapter of her life, the one she thought she would write alone, might finally include him, but only if he was willing to face the consequences of the years he had lost. As the school bell rang and children streamed into the building, Clara's eyes lingered on him, memorizing every detail. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. And deep down, for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, some stories weren't over, they were only beginning. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions Clara had never anticipated. Mornings became a delicate dance of routines, smiles, and whispered reassurances to Mia, who still carried the excitement of school in her bright eyes. Yet beneath the surface, Clara's mind constantly drifted to the man who had reappeared in their lives. Every interaction, every glance, carried the weight of 6 years of absence, of unanswered questions, and of the life that might have been. She tried to push him from her thoughts, focusing instead on the small victories of motherhood: Mia's laughter during breakfast, the proud glow after a well-done homework assignment, the quiet moments when her daughter would curl up beside her at night and share her dreams. Clara had built a life of resilience, of strength forged in solitude, and she wasn't about to let the past unravel it. But fate has a way of demanding attention. One crisp afternoon, as Clara waited outside the school for Mia to finish her day, she saw him again, not hiding, not lingering in the shadows, standing there, watching the other parents, yet somehow different. There was a humility in his stance, a quiet acknowledgement that time had passed, that life had moved forward without him. Mia ran into Clara's arms, laughing and chattering about her day, oblivious to the storm swirling around her mother. Clara hugged her tightly, drawing strength from the innocence that still existed in the world, from the love that had kept her going all these years. And as she straightened, their eyes met. His eyes, the same piercing blue, filled now with something more complex: remorse, hope, and a vulnerability that had never existed before. For the first time since he had vanished, Clara felt the tug of something she hadn't dared to feel in years: possibility. But it came with caution, a careful assessment of whether he truly deserved a place in their lives, whether he could be trusted after so much loss. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, cautiously, he began to appear in subtle ways at school events, occasionally passing by at the grocery store, sometimes standing at a distance, observing without intrusion. Clara noticed small changes in herself, the way her heart would race when she caught a glimpse of him, the flash of memories both painful and cherished, the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't over. Mia, too, noticed him. She was curious, asking questions about the man who looked like her in ways that both warmed and terrified Clara. Each question was a reminder of the passage of time, of the moments they had lost, yet also of the potential for healing, for connection, for rewriting the narrative of their lives together. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Clara found herself walking through the park with Mia. They paused by a small fountain, the water glinting in the fading light, and there he was again, sitting quietly on a bench, a distance away but impossible to ignore. Clara's pulse quickened, yet this time, there was no panic, only a measured curiosity. She understood, in that instant, that the story of abandonment and solitude was giving way to something new, an opportunity to test the strength of love, resilience, and forgiveness. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to consider what could be, rather than dwell on what had been. The journey ahead would not be easy. Trust, once broken, is fragile, and the scars of the past do not fade overnight. But Clara had already proven her strength, her unwavering devotion, and her ability to endure. And as she glanced at Mia, laughing and spinning in the last rays of sunlight, she realized that whatever came next, they would face it together, fortified by the bond that had never faltered. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between the moments, Clara knew that the real story, the one worth telling, was only beginning. Clara had never imagined that a simple walk in the park could stir such a storm of emotions. Yet there he was again, Alex, sitting on the weathered wooden bench beneath the sprawling oak. He seemed almost smaller somehow, humbled by time and distance, The wind carried the faint scent of rain and earth, and for a moment, the world felt suspended, like the universe had paused just to witness this reunion. Clara's grip tightened on Mia's hand, not out of fear, but to steady herself. Against the sudden surge of emotions she had tried to suppress for years, Mia skipped ahead, her laughter ringing like music through the crisp air, unaware of the history unfolding around her. Alex's gaze followed her, tender and almost reverent, and Clara felt her chest tighten. She had spent 6 years alone, learning how to navigate life without him, discovering reserves of strength she hadn't known existed. And yet, seeing him now, watching her daughter with a mixture of awe and hesitation, stirred something she couldn't name, a combination of anger, curiosity, and a fragile, cautious hope. He stood slowly as they approached, hands slightly trembling at his sides. "Clara," he said, his voice low, careful, almost reverent, as if speaking her name could shatter the fragile barrier she had built around herself. She looked at him, measuring every word, every gesture. "Alex," she replied evenly, her tone steady despite the storm raging inside. She felt the pull of history, the echoes of promises made and broken, but she also felt the quiet resilience that had carried her through the darkest nights. I don't know how to start," he said finally, his gaze flickering to Mia. "I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I've watched from afar, and I need to explain. I need you to hear me." Clara's pulse raced. She had rehearsed countless scenarios in her mind, moments when he might reappear, but none had prepared her for the gravity of this one. The years of absence, the sleepless nights, the unanswered questions, they all demanded answers now, and she realized that holding back her emotions would not protect her. It would only prolong the journey they were destined to take together. "You disappeared, Alex," she said softly but firmly. 6 years. 6 years of birthdays, first steps, school plays, and nightmares. You weren't there, and now you want to explain?" He nodded, eyes glistening. "I don't expect forgiveness, Clara. I don't expect understanding right away. But I want to show you. I want to be present, if you'll allow it, even in the smallest way. I've made mistakes, monumental mistakes, but I've spent every day regretting them, every day wishing I could turn back time." Clara looked at Mia, whose eyes sparkled with curiosity and a hint of recognition. The resemblance was undeniable, a mirror of the man who had vanished from her life, yet also a testament to the life she had built alone. Clara's heart ached with the duality of her existence, the pride of what she had accomplished, and the sting of what she had lost. "I don't know if I can trust you," she admitted, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "You left us, Alex. You made us endure everything alone. How do I know this isn't just another chapter of disappointment?" He stepped closer, careful not to intrude, yet close enough that the sincerity in his eyes reached her. "You don't," he said honestly. "I know I have to earn it. I know there's no shortcut. But I'm willing to try, Clara. Not for me, for Mia, for both of you. I've missed so much already, but I want to be better. I want to prove that love can survive absence, that redemption is possible, even after failure." The words struck her like a lightning bolt. Redemption. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, redemption. Clara realized that she had been living in the shadow of betrayal, but maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward where mistakes didn't define the rest of their lives. Her daughter deserved the truth, deserved the chance to know the man she resembled in ways so profound it hurt, and perhaps deserved the opportunity to witness growth, courage, and change. Mia tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Mom, he's nice," she said, eyes wide and innocent. "He looks like he cares." Her words were simple, but they carried the wisdom of a child untainted by years of disappointment, and they struck Clara deeply. Children see what adults often cannot: the honesty behind hesitation, the potential behind mistakes. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease just slightly. She didn't know what the future held, but she understood one thing clearly: avoiding the past would not protect her, and shielding Mia from reality would not prepare her for life. Sometimes courage meant facing the unknown, risking pain for the possibility of growth, and trusting that resilience could overcome even the deepest wounds. "All right," she said finally, her voice firm but tinged with vulnerability. "You'll have one chance, Alex. One chance to show us who you are now, not who you were. He nodded, relief and determination flickering across his face. Thank you, Clara. I won't waste it. I promise you, I won't. As they walked toward the fading sunlight, Clara felt a strange mixture of anticipation and fear. The journey ahead would be difficult, laden with challenges and moments that would test their strength. But she also felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years: hope. Hope that mistakes could be repaired, that hearts could heal, and that love even after abandonment could find its way back. And for the first time in a long time, Clara allowed herself to believe that perhaps the story she had thought ended with solitude was instead unfolding into a tale of resilience, courage, and the extraordinary power of second chances. The days grew longer as autumn settled over the city, painting the streets with shades of amber and gold. Clara felt a tension she hadn't anticipated, a quiet unease tempered by cautious hope. Alex had begun to integrate himself into their lives in small, careful ways. He attended Mia's school events, helped with homework when she struggled, and even learned to make her favorite breakfast. But Clara knew that gestures alone could not erase 6 years of absence, nor the sleepless nights she had endured carrying the weight of both their worlds alone. One chilly afternoon, Clara and Mia walked home from school, the leaves crunching under their feet. Alex had promised to meet them at the park, a place he knew held no judgment, only space for reconciliation. Mia bounded ahead, her laughter floating through the crisp air, while Clara's thoughts spiraled through a mix of anticipation and doubt. Could someone truly change after abandoning the people they loved most? Could trust be rebuilt brick by brick when the foundation had been shattered for so long? As they approached the park, Clara saw him sitting on the bench, head bowed slightly, hands clasped together. He looked smaller somehow, not in stature, but in the humility etched into his posture. The sunlight fell across his face, highlighting lines she hadn't noticed before, subtle reminders that life had continued for him, too, albeit differently. Alex looked up as they drew near, and for a moment, the world seemed to hush. He didn't rise immediately, as though unsure if he should approach or let them pass. But Mia, with the fearless curiosity of a child, ran straight to him, wrapping her tiny arms around his knees. "Hi, I missed you," she said cheerfully, and Clara felt her chest tighten. "Hi, Mia," he said, his voice unsteady but warm. I missed you too." Clara stood back, studying him, weighing every nuance, every flicker of expression. She had spent 6 years building a life around independence, resilience, and self-reliance. But now, here he was offering presence, humility, and the beginnings of redemption. It was tempting to close herself off, to retreat into the fortress she had constructed. But something inside urged her to consider that perhaps some stories were meant to take unexpected turns. For the next hour, they walked through the park together. Alex asked Mia about school, her friends, her favorite books. He listened, really listened, something Clara had not expected. And yet, even as she observed him, part of her remained guarded, memories of unanswered calls, empty promises, and lonely nights whispering warnings in the back of her mind. When Mia ran ahead to chase a squirrel, Clara finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "You realize this won't be easy, right?" Alex nodded. "I know. I've made mistakes that can't be undone. But I can try. I can show her that I'm here now, that I won't disappear again. That's all I can do, prove through action, not words." Clara studied him, the sincerity in his eyes undeniable. She felt a flicker of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years, possibility. But possibility that someone could grow, change, and even redeem themselves. And perhaps the most important lesson she was learning was that resilience was not just about surviving alone, it was also about learning to accept help, love, and connection, even when it was painful or risky. Over the next few weeks, Alex continued to integrate himself slowly, never rushing, never demanding trust. He helped with homework, attended parent-teacher meetings, and even participated in bedtime routines, reading stories to Mia and gently coaxing her to share the events of her day. Clara observed quietly, noting how the dynamic between father and daughter evolved. Mia's laughter grew more frequent, her excitement for shared activities palpable. And Clara noticed something in herself, as well, a tentative sense of relief, a cautious optimism that perhaps life had room for second chances after all. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Clara found herself sitting on the couch, reflecting on the journey so far. 6 years of struggle, 6 years of proving her strength, had brought her to this moment. And yet, the most important lessons were still unfolding. True strength, she realized, was not measured by how well she could endure pain alone, but by how courageously she could open herself to hope, forgiveness, and the possibility of a new beginning. She glanced at Mia, who was asleep with a book clutched in her hands, and then at Alex, quietly tidying the living room. There was still a long road ahead, filled with challenges, moments of doubt, and the remnants of old wounds. But there was also a path forward, illuminated by persistence, empathy, and the courage to embrace life, even when it demanded vulnerability. Clara understood, in that quiet evening, that the true story was not just about abandonment or reunion. It was about transformation. It was about teaching Mia that life could be both painful and beautiful, that mistakes could become lessons, and that love, when nurtured with patience and intention, could heal even the deepest scars. And as she sat there, letting the calm settle over her, she knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, not as fractured remnants of the past, but as a family forged by resilience, strengthened by trials, and guided by the unwavering belief that courage and love could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. The first frost of winter had settled over the city, painting the streets with delicate crystalline patterns that glimmered in the morning light. Clara zipped up Mia's coat, brushing away stray curls as her daughter chattered excitedly about the day ahead. There was a rhythm to these mornings now, a delicate harmony shaped by years of struggle, resilience, and the tentative presence of Alex in their lives. Yet Clara knew that beneath the surface, the real test was just beginning. Alex had proven his commitment in countless small ways, attending parent-teacher conferences, helping Mia with science projects, and even standing quietly by her side when Clara's work demanded extra hours. But trust, Clara reminded herself, was not built overnight. 6 years of absence had left deep traces and imprint of hurt and uncertainty that could not be erased with gestures alone. Today, however, felt different. There was a subtle tension in the air, a sense that something significant was about to unfold. As they walked to school, Alex kept pace beside them, his presence steady and calm. Mia skipped ahead, humming a tune she had learned in music class, oblivious to the undercurrent of emotion swirling around her parents. Clara felt her heart tighten as she glanced at Alex, noting the subtle changes in his demeanor, the quiet patience, the attentiveness, the humility he carried now like armor forged in regret. When they reached the school gate, a chill ran down Clara's spine. Today was not just another school day. It was a moment that symbolized the fragile bridge between the past and the future. She remembered the first day, 6 years ago, when she had walked Mia into the world alone, her heart heavy with both love and sorrow. Now, as Alex stood beside her, she wondered if that bridge could truly support all three of them, the daughter, the mother, and the man who had once vanished. "Mom, he's coming with us today?" Mia asked, her voice tinged with excitement. "Yes, sweetheart," Clara replied softly, squeezing her hand. "He'll be with us. But remember, this is just the beginning. Trust is built slowly, and today we take one step together." Alex nodded, his eyes meeting hers briefly, a silent promise conveyed in a glance. He had no words that could undo the past, no explanations that could erase years of absence, but he carried with him the determination to be present now, to earn the chance to be part of their lives. Inside the classroom, Clara felt the familiar swirl of anxiety and anticipation. Mia ran to her desk, waving at her friends, while Alex lingered by the doorway, watching with quiet pride. Clara noticed the subtle softness in his gaze, the careful restraint as he allowed Mia to settle in, and she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Perhaps this was what resilience looked like, not just surviving, but learning to embrace vulnerability, even when it was frightening. The day passed with a rhythm of ordinary events, lessons, recess, laughter, and small triumphs, but beneath the surface, something extraordinary was unfolding. Alex remained present, attentive, and patient. He guided Mia through challenges, celebrated her successes, and even offered comfort when minor. Setbacks left her frustrated. Clara observed quietly, noting the subtle but profound shifts occurring within their little family. After school, as they walked home through the snow-dusted streets, Clara felt a surge of emotion she hadn't anticipated. The crisp winter air carried with it a sense of renewal, a promise that even the coldest seasons could give way to warmth and growth. Alex walked beside them, hands tucked into his pockets, occasionally reaching out to steady Mia when she tripped over a hidden patch of ice. "You're really here, aren't you?" Clara asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper, more to herself than to him. "I am," Alex replied, his tone steady but imbued with sincerity. "And I'll stay. I can't change the past, Clara, but I can promise to be here now every step of the way." Clara felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and the quiet acknowledgement of her own courage. She had endured 6 years alone, building a life of resilience and independence. Yet she now realized that true strength was not measured solely by solitude, but by the willingness to open one's heart again, to trust, and to embrace love despite the risks. That evening, as Mia fell asleep wrapped in a blanket of warmth and security, Clara and Alex sat together in the living room. The soft glow of the lamp cast gentle shadows, highlighting the lines of worry and hope etched into their faces. They spoke cautiously at first, sharing memories, acknowledging mistakes, and allowing the silence between words to hold space for reflection and understanding. Clara realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be setbacks, moments of doubt, and challenges that tested their patience and resilience. But she also understood that growth and transformation often required discomfort, that healing was not linear, and that courage often revealed itself in the smallest, quietest moments of choice. Alex reached out, tentatively taking her hand in his. "I don't expect everything to be perfect," he said softly. "I just want the chance to be part of this life, to help create the future Mia deserves, and to make amends for the past." Clara squeezed his hand gently, a silent acknowledgement that she was willing to try, to step forward with cautious hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was theirs to walk together, guided by resilience, love, and the unwavering belief that second chances, when nurtured with patience and courage, could blossom into something extraordinary. As they sat in quiet companionship, the snow falling softly outside, Clara felt a profound sense of clarity. Life was not defined solely by abandonment or loss, but by the courage to embrace transformation, to build bridges where once there were chasms, and to believe that even after the darkest winters, warmth and light could return. And in that moment, she knew that their story, once marked by absence and struggle, was evolving into a tale of redemption, hope, and the enduring power of love. Winter had settled into a quiet rhythm, each day marked by the soft crunch of snow beneath their feet and the silver light that reflected off frost-kissed rooftops. Clara stood by the window, watching Mia build a small snowman in the yard, her laughter ringing clear and pure through the cold air. Beside her, Alex quietly sipped his coffee, his eyes following every movement of his daughter with a mix of awe, pride, and something Clara recognized as a fragile, hard-earned humility. For 6 long years, Clara had navigated life alone, carrying the weight of parenthood, work, and the quiet ache of unanswered questions. She had learned to stand tall through adversity, to find strength in her resilience, and to carve out a world for Mia that was safe, nurturing, and full of love. And now, after months of cautious integration, small steps, and tentative trust, the man who had vanished from their lives was finally becoming a part of it, not by force, not by expectation, but through deliberate, consistent effort that spoke louder than words ever could. "Mommy, look," Mia called, pointing at the snowman she had just finished. "Do you think Daddy can help me give him a scarf?" Clara glanced at Alex, who rose without hesitation, a warm smile spreading across his face. He knelt beside Mia, carefully wrapping the small scarf around the snowman's neck, his hands steady and deliberate. There was a simplicity to the moment that carried enormous significance, proof that redemption was not a dramatic event, but a series of small, intentional actions performed with sincerity and love. As they stood together, Clara felt a swell of emotion she hadn't anticipated. There was relief, yes, and joy, but also a profound sense of understanding. Life was not about perfection or flawless returns. It was about showing up, consistently, with courage and integrity. Alex had missed 6 years of milestones, but he was choosing, consciously, to be present now, and that choice mattered more than anything else. Later that afternoon, as they settled into the warmth of their home, Clara found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The pain of abandonment had been real and raw, yet it had forged a strength in her she would never have known otherwise. Alex's return had tested her resilience, challenged her trust, and demanded that she confront old wounds with honesty and bravery. And through it all, she had discovered an essential truth. Life's greatest lessons often arrive disguised as hardship, and growth is born from the courage to embrace both the joy and the pain of the human experience. Mia curled up between them. On the couch, her small hands clutching a book she insisted they read together. Alex's voice was steady and calm as he narrated the story, and Clara listened to the cadence, the care with which he spoke, the attentiveness that was now second nature. She realized that this was the real miracle, not the return of a lost presence, but the conscious decision to nurture, to protect, and to love with unwavering intention. As the evening deepened, Clara and Alex stepped outside for a brief walk. The city bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, reflecting off the freshly fallen snow. The air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of pine and frost. Silence stretched between them, comfortable yet weighted with the unspoken acknowledgement of the journey they had undertaken together. "I never thought we'd be here," Clara said quietly, her breath visible in the cold air. "I never thought I could feel hope again." Alex turned to her, his eyes reflecting the soft luminescence of the lamps and the unspoken promise he had carried all these months. "You've shown me what real courage looks like," he said, "not just in enduring alone, but in learning to trust again. I've spent years regretting what I lost, but I'm determined to honor the chance I have now, every day. I'll try to be the father you both deserve, the man I wish I had been." Clara felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and the quiet awe of witnessing a transformation unfold. She realized that life, with all its unpredictability, had brought them to this point not by coincidence, but through perseverance, resilience, and the willingness to face difficult truths with honesty and bravery. Over the next weeks, their routines solidified into something remarkable. They cooked meals together, shared laughter over small mishaps in the kitchen, and navigated challenges with patience and communication. Mia thrived in this new environment, her spirit buoyed by the tangible love and commitment surrounding her. And Clara felt the weight of the past lift, replaced not by perfection, but by authenticity, presence, and the shared understanding that mistakes do not define a person, actions do. One snowy evening, as they stood at the window watching the city glow beneath a blanket of frost, Clara realized that the story they were living was extraordinary not because it was free of pain, but because it was full of redemption, courage, and the quiet triumph of love. She had learned that resilience was not merely enduring hardship, but embracing the possibility of change, of growth, and of second chances. And in that moment, she understood the true power of their journey, that life's challenges could be transformed into opportunities for healing, that abandonment could give way to connection, and that even after years of uncertainty, hearts could rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. As they held each other close, the glow of the city reflecting in their eyes, Clara allowed herself to believe fully in the extraordinary, that love, courage, and determination could rewrite the narrative of a life once fractured, and that the most inspiring stories are those that emerge not from perfection, but from the resilience and hope of human hearts willing to try again.